Today, as we commemorate the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls, we are honored to be joined by an advocate whose life's work exemplifies the power of storytelling for social change. Ramatu Ada Ochekliye is a storyteller with a rich and dynamic background spanning radio, television, film, and digital media, expertly using these platforms to shape and influence narrative about Africa, Africans, and people of African descent. Ramatu is a founder of 𝗂𝗶𝗴𝗶 Storytelling Initiative for African People, popularly known as 𝗂𝗶𝗴𝗶, a non-profit organization that leverages diverse media formats to advance critical SDGs, including gender equality, quality education, good health, climate action, and reduced inequalities. Her work is rooted in amplifying the voices and lived experiences of women, children, persons with disabilities, and other underserved communities. Through her creative leadership, she has written, directed, and produced 6 powerful short films. With more than 12 years of experience in media, storytelling, program design, and knowledge management, Ramatu continues to champion strategic communication as a transformative tool for advocacy and development.
It is such a privilege for us to have you here with us today, Ramatu.
Thank you so much.
And I know I've spoken a bit during the introduction about 𝗂𝗶𝗴𝗶 and the work that you do, but can you, in a few sentences and a few words, just guide us through what 𝗂𝗶𝗴𝗶 is doing currently in this space?
Okay, everything we do is tied to storytelling. Storytelling is how we think we can change perspectives. This is because we believe that when people have a different perspective about who they are, why we exist as we are, that we might be able to present ourselves slightly differently and have people perceive us even differently, so that people can now include us in conversations that affect us rather than just dish out their opportunities or their options to us. So we use stories, whether it's audio, visual, and whatever kind of story, to try and get us to think. Just take a little time and introspect and think about our lives, see if we can change ourselves for the better.
I think this guides me towards my first question for you, which is in the work that you do, in the space that you're facing, and from what you've seen, through these years of advocacy, what forms of digital violence are women and girls facing, and which groups do you think are mostly at risk?
Okay, so I'll start by talking about the more common forms, which are the harassment. There are people who might follow you online and they're back on your case. I'd like to give you an example of something that happened when I first joined Facebook. Someone had reached out to me wanting to be friends. I turned the person down. The person continued to follow. Somehow that person found my number. I was calling and threatening me to say, oh, you must be my girlfriend. And I'm like, from where to where, I was so angry about it. And one day this person told me, oh, the blue dress you wore, I can't remember if it was blue, but I'm just using blue as an example. This dress you wore was so beautiful today, you should wear things like that. It meant that it had moved from the digital form into a physical type. And I was scared. I was afraid to go out of my house. I was wondering what would happen to me. And I had to, block. If I block the number, the person will come back again. And it all started from a Facebook friend request that I refused to accept, that went into a message that I refused to accept, that escalated into the person finding my number and even getting to the point where they saw me in person. And because I didn't even know this person, they could have been close to me enough to touch me, enough to poison me, enough to use maybe something to kidnap me or something, and I never knew. So it was one of the scariest moments that I faced. And many women will tell you that they have similar stories to this. That's the more common one. The second one is, trying to extort money from people. For example, you do something that your parents don't know or want to know. You put out something, and next thing you know, someone is saying, oh, I'm going to send this to your parents if you don't give me money, or if you don't send me more nude pictures, which now puts you even in a bigger phase. The second one is, trying to extort money from people. For example, you do something that your parents don't know or want to know. You put out something, and next thing you know, someone is saying, oh, I'm going to send this to your parents if you don't give me money, or if you don't send me more nude pictures, which now puts you even in a bigger phase. Another type is nude videos become when people have intimate moments and and the nude videos that they shoot because of the intimacy and the trust that they think they have with each other, someone breaks that trust and decides to go and publish it online. And one thing that many people do not talk about is how bystanders or other internet users contribute to that abuse.
Yes.
Because it's one thing for someone to put the video of someone they have abused online or they are abusing online. It's another thing for you to reshare.
Yes.
You know, put on your timeline like, oh, I haven't seen this. Have you seen this video?
Yes.
Oh, look at
Chats,
this thing. Create group chats to talk about it, to dissect. That is actually increasing the abuse that happens. This is why in the UK, for example, if you share a video of any sexual acts being done to a child, you would be arrested. You who shared will be arrested and also charged with child crimes against children. So that's another type. And then in the era of artificial intelligence, it has gone further.
Yes.
You know, before artificial intelligence, we used to have what was called the deepfakes, where people would sit down, edit really good videos, but you could always tell when, you know, a head was placed on top of a body, and you could assume that this was just something that someone did in their editing suite. But with AI, right now, you can feed in a video. In fact, take a person's face, say, use this image, give me a person committing acts of sex or committing acts of violence or committing acts of saying hate speech or fighting the government or something. But what then happens is that people begin to attack these people who have been, you know, things are said about them. Finally, I would say it's also to get money from people, which women are often the targets of this. So recently my mom called me and said, oh, are you doing okay? I said, I'm fine. My sister immediately called me a few minutes later. Are you okay? I'm like, yes, I am. Where are you? I'm at home. She said, you're home? Are you sure? I said, yes, I'm at home. And she said she had received a call saying that I had been in an accident and that I needed blood, that they were rushing me to the hospital and she should send money quickly. Thankfully, because we constantly share these types of things on our group, my mom could easily have fallen for that, because if she had not known better, she could have fallen for that, because the panic would have been the first thing that would take over her body. And next thing you know is she'll be saying, oh, my child is in the hospital, let me send as much money as I can before. But because we had shared those kinds of videos with her, she knew that this was not true, and she needed to call first to confirm. And when she and my sister called and they realized, oh, this was not true, you know, I was safe. But it's very common because, one, a lot of women do not have, especially even older women, do not have the kind of education that would help them understand technology. And when they do understand technology, it's because it's so new and it's so overwhelming sometimes what they do is they begin to think, oh, anything I see online is true. That's why we have the WhatsApp aunties, the WhatsApp uncles, the
ones slowly becoming,
you know. So it's so easy for them to accept everything that they see as true and just receive that information. So many women have lost money because somebody called them, and people just sit down and target women, and it's leading to the second part of your question: who are those who are most affected? First, it's very young girls and boys, and to be fair, young girls and boys, because there are so many people who are targeting young girls and saying, oh, you know, you're beautiful, you're mature for your age, you look bigger than your age, and things like that. They're targeting young boys and telling them, oh, come on Xbox. Some parents are coming out right now to say that if you buy Xbox for children, and Roblox in particular, then there are games where you can create things that children should not be seeing, right? And people are inviting, oh, did mommy tell you not to play? Come and play. And it seems normal, a regular thing. But next thing you know, they're down a rabbit hole where they are seeing all levels of depravity, all levels of criminality. They're even encouraged to be criminals. Next thing you know, they're telling you, oh, go and take a picture of your mom's ATM card, front and back, so that we can help you get these coins and what have you. And because children are not fully able to grasp the context of evil or the context of bad, they don't understand that, oh, someone asking me for my mom's ATM,
even your address
or my address, might be trying to harm me. So they just think, oh, I have a friend online and I can just give them all of that information. So that becomes problematic. So women and girls especially. Then when you get to teenagers are affected because for girls, they're telling them, oh, look, older women are not, older women are expired, as the word is, that you are beauty, you are in the prime of your era, and they can, because of this, go and meet people who can traffic them, who can rape them, who can abuse them, and things like that. And teenage boys are being pulled into the manosphere.
Yes.
That's now
red pill content.
That's now encouraging them to harm and be abusive to women. So it's not just on the victim side, it's also on the abuser side, that they are actively recruiting people to be abusers, just as they're actively recruiting people to be victims or survivors. And so it becomes a problem. Now, when you go to older adults now, there's still a group that are being targeted, and mostly you have women. You have women who are maybe career women who are journalists, especially if they're vocal, they can stand against the government, stand against corruption and things like that. I watched a documentary recently. It was called The Double Minority, that followed the lives of women who had run for politics. And all of the women, without fail, I think there were 7 or 8 of them from different parts of the country. It was a very representative documentary. But different parts of the country, all of them had one common thing that they said. There was an online campaign that was used to smear them, and the only thing they could say was, this woman na shawo, this woman na odosho, this woman is a whore. The common words that I used to put down women, because they feel, as soon as I call her these names, she will drop out of the race. If I call her these names, people will not vote for her. If I call her these names, she will be more interested in her.
Into submission.
Exactly. So these are the things that are happening, that we see. That's with older women and the likes. And a group that many people do not talk about are the women who are 65 and above, who have very little understanding of technology in the first instance, and so they are easily susceptible. I give an example with my mom. My mom escaped that because we have taken the time to teach her. But there are so many mothers who are giving out money every day, and they don't target them with anything that is too out of the blue. It's always that belief that,
harm your children.
Your children are in danger, or something is happening, and no mother wants to hear that her child is in danger. Or quickly send this 50,000 naira, let me help your child. And they never ever come in the sense of, I want to threaten you. It's always, I want to help you. And because in their generation, they believe that inherently we are good people and we can help each other. So when somebody comes and says, your child is in danger, let me help them, quickly send this money, they are open to sending that money, and that becomes a type of violence in itself against these people. And then we have men, grown men, who also face the same kinds of problems, which especially is that pathway to the manosphere. That's the biggest threat if you are looking at internet or digital safety for people, because even people, and I've seen a lot of married people who are saying that they married wonderful husbands, 2 years down the line they started taking in red pill content, and then somebody comes back and tells his wife, you're not worth it, you're not a high value woman, you're not worthy of the high value man, and things. And so no man, whether he's 13 or 75, is free from the clutches of the red pill movement. Anybody who lets their guard down can actually be pulled into that place, and they become abusers.
As young as 10. I think, did you see this movie? Yes. How old was he? And he was able to do what he was able to do because of the kind of content that is being fed both boys and girls on the internet. And I think it's you've sort of answered the question, my next question, which is how has technology kind of shaped or changed the nature and severity of abuse? And like you said, it's the anonymity that it provides. I can stay in my house and I'm able to abuse someone that's in a different continent.
Completely.
And so it's just.
And it even gets worse, because it's not just being able to abuse someone, it's being able to actively break a person down until they lose themselves. Some people even lose their lives,
and you get away
with it. It's the fact that you cannot hold the internet responsible. Over the weekend, in Nigeria, if you're in Nigeria, there's a lot of conversation that's been happening on Twitter, and a lot of the people who were being targeted were switching off, deleting, deactivating their profiles and what have you. For many people, it will just be oh, it was something I just talked about this and I moved on. For them, there is a lasting effect on their mental health. For some of them, their physical health and things like that. So it becomes very, very problematic. Now that's one aspect, the fact that you can break people, the mental health aspect, because you can break people down until they lose themselves and what have you. There's also the physical aspect. I want to give you something that happened. 2012, I was living in Adamawa State, 2013, I was living in Adamawa State, Yola, and there was the instance of the Boko Haram insurgency that was happening. Now, everybody had been saying Boko Haram was bad, Boko Haram was bad. But they, for the first time, I think they're outside ISIS. Boko Haram was the second terrorist group that I had studied that deployed social media for perception change. What did they do? They showed videos of themselves raiding communities, showing their guns, showing their machinery, showing how they caught women and they raped them, showing how they were killing men. All of the gruesomeness, they were putting it out on social media. So while I was in Adamawa State, next thing we knew, because I was working on radio and TV at that time, and with the news came in, breaking news, we had to go on air and talk about the fact that people were running away from Mubi. Mubi was maybe 2 or 2.5 hours away from Yola town, or maybe 4 hours away from Yola town. And what happened was that people were running away from Mubi. And worst part is, these people, Boko Haram had not reached Mubi. But their videos, using technology, the video had preceded them. And people had seen all of the carnage they could bring. And they were like, oh, I cannot wait for them to come and meet them. And people were trekking till tomorrow. I have a picture of people who were coming from Mubi, from the Yola South where I was, the Yola part where I was. You could see a sea of people coming.
Caravan of people.
Caravans, cars, bikes, on foot, all of them coming away from Mubi. We were even scared because should we remain in this radio station, should we continue our jobs and what have you? But it was the fact that they could use the technology to push fear. Women especially made up that line. They were the highest number of that line. Why? Because number one, women were taking their children and what have you, so it looked like there were more women. But the fact that women knew that the rape was, in addition to everything that the terrorists might do to a group, that we would need to also, we may also face rape, sexual violence, and all kinds of things. This was happening. Another country where you can see that happening is right now Eritrea. Eritrea, the soldiers filmed the fact that they were shooting, and I'm sorry, this is slightly graphic. They were shooting in nails, rusted iron, rusted metal into women.
What?
To make the Eritrean women infertile. And they filmed everything and put it online. So when people started talking about Eritrea, the fear was even a bigger factor than the actual conflict that was happening. And it's a form of warfare to say, women, oh, this is what will happen to you if we come to you. That's one way. The next thing you look at in how prevalent it is in the fact that deepfakes are everywhere right now, especially of the sexual kind. And even if someone rapes a person, the woman is blamed for being raped. What took you to his house? What were you doing there? And all of that. So imagine how bad it is when the woman now is out there in a sex video. And what does this do? It creates double layers of shame. It's the shame of, something happened to you if it was sexual abuse, and then the double shame of now the whole world is saying what has happened to you. And what is worse is when it was just deep fakes, I could because I do videos and do film and what have you, I can look at a video, look at it long enough, and you can tell this is a deep fake.
Somebody even more difficult now.
It is extremely difficult.
Let me tell you something.
Look, I watched a video on TikTok and I celebrated and clapped, and I was like, this, oh my god, it was such a hope call video, very beautiful and what have you. And then I opened the comment section and I saw, oh, this is AI, oh, this is AI. And I went back to look at the video, and I tell you, I looked at it for 15 minutes and I could not see where the points that made it AI was. Why did people know that it was AI? Because there's a Grok It's called 𝗀𝗏 or something. I can't remember what it is. It's one of the AI that Grok uses for video.
Yeah.
And that thing was at the top on the video. Just how
So
you have like a watermark on that's the only reason that people knew it was AI. Outside that, it was so realistic. It was, and people fell for that. It had, by the time I got to the video, it had over 4 million views. So, and 4 million likes. I mean, imagine how many views, because people just loved it. So with these kinds of AI generated deepfakes, what will happen is you can now have somebody, for example, now we have Senator Natasha who might be having problems in the house, and next thing you know, somebody might say, oh, Senator Natasha, let's put her in AI, let's make her say something against the government or against the people.
Yes.
And then you put it out there, and next thing you know, the support that she will be getting, she loses it because of a deepfake.
And before a correction comes forth, the damage has been done.
And people really don't care about the story you tell after damage has been done. They only remember that bit of you that has happened. So this is prevalent because it is very quick. In AI, I just need to know the prompt.
Yes.
I literally have to sit down, design what I want the background to look like, what I want the person to be doing, what I want the clothes to be, and it happens.
Yeah, and this kind of sort of brings me to the next question. There was a case in Louisiana, I think in the US, of a young girl, middle school I think, that was expelled because she had beaten a classmate that circulated AI-generated explicit images of her.
Now, look at the person who defended herself getting a higher form of punishment than the person who created, because people do not think that these types of sexual abuse or gender-based violence are as bad as assault, which is what she was charged with, the assault of the person. But they are sometimes even worse. Because you see, assault most times is one-on-one, right? If you're not looking in cases of mass assault or things like that, one-on-one, right? But now imagine that the deep fakes he had made, the explicit images he had generated and sent out. Now, you are in Nigeria, thousands of miles away from Louisiana, and you have learned about this particular story, and it will never go away.
Yes.
It will always be online for somebody to come and see, and if they search her name, they'll probably always have that attached to her. But she's getting punished for taking the law into her hand when the law did not protect her. A person would continue to remember that, because even if you want to forget it, somebody will come out and say, oh, look at what you did.
It goes viral every few years.
And guess what? It's because it's tied back to what I was talking about. We are conditioned to feel shame as women.
So now I think what do you think are the biggest gaps in reporting injustice and in protection for these kinds of situations?
Well, I would say the first gap is that we really do not have any framework or law that directly affects technology facilitated gender-based violence. We don't have it. There are organizations like 𝗀𝗃 that's working with the government to try to get this done, but we don't have that. We have some laws that try to protect, for example, the Cyber Crimes Act, and we have the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act. We have gender policies, but none of them speak directly to protecting people on the digital space. None of them do. So even when you want to pick up the Cyber Crimes Act, it's for people like the tomato company, who we shall not name, that decided to, attack a woman for giving a review of them. That's what they use the cyber. But there's nothing that's talking about the targeted gender-based violence.
And the excuse that always comes up is, oh, AI is still new, we are still assessing. Other countries are making headway in their laws, but we're still here trying to get used to it.
But we don't need AI to be advanced or advanced for us to make the laws. Look at South Africa, look at the UK, look at Canada. They're right now as we're talking, improving their laws concerning digital safety. Countries that have actually moved forward, the continent as a whole. The European Union has a Digital Safety Act that they have implemented, so much so that, in fact, before we even had the Digital Safety Act, there was the GDPR. I can't for the life of me remember what it is. But if you have ever done anything online, maybe you're trying to get information, maybe you work in comms, you want to send emails to people, you'll see a small prompt that tells you, oh, due to GDPR laws, you have to do such and such. Because of these laws that were done by the EU, we now have to request that people subscribe. You know, in the past, you can just get 1,000 emails, you send them your newsletter. Now people have to subscribe. You have to show that they have given you permission to send. And it's because of that law. AI was not common then, but technology was there, and there was the foresight that technology is only going to get better.
Yes.
Even AI, right now we're happy with AI and celebrating AI. There's something bigger that can still come in the future.
And it also doesn't help that all tech companies are in a sort of race with one another. Who's going to be the next innovator? And so much so that at this point, I think in October, ChatGPT has recently made it possible for people over 18, I don't know how they're going to check that, but for people over 18 to generate explicit content on there.
So ChatGPT is tame in comparison to some of the other AI models that we have out there. Yes, technology must improve. That's the nature of human beings. We tend to improve on ourselves, but we must put those regulations. And for some countries, the regulations start at country level. Or as a country, Nigeria needs to do better. Let me give you an example of a country that has done exceptionally well in terms of gender-based violence and digital safety. And that country is none other than Australia. They have something called the e-safety. Australia has something called the e-safety commissioner, and it's helping them to track instances of gender-based violence. It allows people to report, it allows people to seek redress. And because people are seeing the dividend, they know that if I report, there's a chance that this will be taken down, not only taken down, erased off of the internet, and then I can prosecute. That is one of the best models of digital safety that there is right now. Another example, like I've mentioned, the EU, they have a data safety act that they are putting out, and they have a ripple effect of that across all of them. I've mentioned GDPR as an example. And then we have Kenya, that's close to us, right? Kenya has a, Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act. Now that act is also protecting people, making sure that you can actually sue people if they try. We're not saying people will not do bad things, but if the system allows victims, survivors to get justice, they will trust you more. And that's what we need Nigeria to do. If Nigeria is able to also have maybe something like a safety commissioner, I think we would go very far.
But apart from the country part, now because these crimes and these abuses are being conducted on social media platforms. So, how should social media companies and digital platforms, what should they do to prevent these online abuses? What more can they do? A lot of them are saying that doing stuff, everyone has policies, all companies have policies. But what are the practical things? What are the practical steps that they can take?
Because I teach social media, I train to build capacity on social media. I used to tell people, your platform, your timeline is usually what you consume. But no. The timeline, the algorithm has changed, and I've been here long enough to see that change.
And seeing as there are no particularly rigid steps to sort of check the age for consumers. It's sort of, you can imagine with now access to telephones, to cell phones for very, very young people, access to mobile data for very, very young people, internet access in general is very, very widespread among young people. So you can imagine that's what they're consuming.
And it's why the tech firm, just to finalize that question you had originally asked, and I will touch this, the tech firms need to make sure that we can report things that are not right. It's not free speech to talk about or to show that you're raping somebody. It's not free speech. It's not free speech to be hateful. It's not. So we should be allowed to report, and they should also be proactive. Within 24 hours, you should be able to track and do what you need to do. And then when you talk about young people being online, that's where parents and the community have to come into play. Parents often do not even know about some of the things. What I knew when I got online for the first time at 15 or 16, my parents till today don't know it. Right? My parents just joined Twitter and just joined TikTok, and I was like, how did they know to, you know, they're just getting the message right now. Right? So we need to see, and it's not about being a helicopter parent, it's about being a parent that understands safety, right? That's what parents need to do. Then on the flip side, as a community, we need to not be bystanders to evil.
Yes.
We need to be active bystanders. What does this mean? So for example, I see that on a post where somebody sexually harasses somebody or lies against somebody or doxes somebody, my first goal is don't share that.
Yes.
That's the first rule.
Yes.
Don't share that. I can talk about it. I can tell the person you should do better. But I will not quote that tweet. I will not comment on that tweet. I will not like that tweet.
And actively
I will
go
not
looking
share
for group chats where
exactly.
those videos are being
I will
shown.
not do that. So that's the first, and it's something that we can all decide to do. Make it our point of duty not to be those people, right? Secondly, we need to make sure that if, for example, like there is a girl who got very popular in America, the United States of America, her mother will always make her up and dress, and she would, you know, dance online.
Yes,
and a lot
I
of
saw
men.
that.
And there was a man who drove for, I never knew of this girl until the man drove, I think it was 14 hours to go see the girl. And he was documenting I'm going to see this girl. And I love how when I went into the comment section, everybody was like, this is creepy, this is wrong, this is a crime, you are a child sexual predator,
yes.
and what have you. And so we need to also call out bad behavior.
I also learned that in that case, it was someone from the internet that had called Child Protective Services.
And because the mother didn't say anything wrong, she was endangering the child, endangering herself, and she didn't say anything wrong.
Yeah.
And so it was somebody online who called, just like you said. And in so many instances, right now there's an active vigilante group in the in the United Kingdom, Ireland, and I think France or so. They're a vigilante group that pretend to be underage girls so that they catch pedophiles. Now on Roblox, a guy did that, and Roblox blocked him. Do you know that people had to now come back again, refusing to just be there? They said they were going to be active bystanders. They said, Roblox, you cannot be blocking the person who is calling or catching pedophiles.
Yes.
When the pedophiles are free to roam on the app. And because a lot of people actively protested against them, they now said, they are going to roll back some of their. I'm like, oh really? You had to wait until a protest happened before you felt that this was a problem? So, and here in Nigeria, somebody is saying something nasty about somebody, it's wrong, or they're putting out their information. So it's very important that we hold people accountable. But we cannot hold people accountable if we cannot tell what is wrong or what is right. We must first know what is wrong and what is right. We must know that we need to protect people, that human rights are not, that they're inalienable, and that we must protect each other. We must welcome back a culture of shame. That, right now a lot of people don't have shame. That's why they can actively do some things that you wonder, did you get any home training? Right? So you need to make it your point of duty to say, look, this is wrong. Putting out somebody's information because she refuses to be with you or refuses to date you is wrong. Doing a video of a woman with deep fake and explicit videos, wrong. Showing that you are going to attack a woman, because there are some people who do it. I'm coming to your house, get ready, I'm coming to attack you. You call it out for what it is. If we do not do this, these instances of gender-based violence would continue to expand and expand and expand until we get to a point like South Africa, where a woman is 5 times as likely to be raped than anywhere else in the world. And it all starts with the fact that they do not address the small things around gender-based violence.
And I just want to touch more on the psychological aspect of it. Do you know, in the line of work that you've been doing over the years in advocacy, do you know if there are supports, like active support that exists sort of for survivors, both psychological, legal, or just security in general? And if there are those support that exists, what there are gaps, there are bound to be gaps. What do you think those gaps are? So,
okay, so I'll list out the supports that I know and the gaps that are there. First, I want to celebrate organizations like 𝗀𝗃, actually doing a lot to educate women on digital safety, technology facilitated gender-based violence, and what have you. Another organization is the 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 Foundation that works directly with survivors. They have a safe house where survivors can go. If they go in time, if they've been sexually abused, they go within a 24-hour period. They help them in getting tested, doing a police report, which is the order of things. You have to get tested one, you have to take photographs, you have to now go to the police and file a report, and then you now see about chasing justice. Then we also have organizations like 𝗨𝗶𝗿𝗲 that's working with women who have been incarcerated. And I think during the time the tomato company had that issue with the woman, they were active in trying to say you are going against her rights, you're going, and actually sending out lawyers to try and help those situations. Now we have the 𝗨𝗶𝗿𝗶, we have 𝗏𝗏 who are doing their bit in trying to also help women and girls against this spot. And then we have my organization that uses storytelling to try and say, look, this sometimes people don't know, to be very honest. They don't know. So we use things like films or podcasts to try and tell people, oh, look, in fact, this is a problem, right? Before, oh, this is a problem, then they can now take action. And then we have the government who, with advocacy and what have you, most states now, most ministries, most departments, most agencies currently have a gender desk. There's a lot more that can be done, and that's where it leads me to the gaps. Now, we cannot do a lot if we do not have an act or a law that stands specifically targets technology facilitated gender-based violence. Australia, that I mentioned, is because they had a law. The law allowed them to create the e-safety commissioner. Kenya had a law. The law allowed them to expand on their, not just cyber crimes, but computer misuse. The EU has a law that protects very much, and it's still there every time they're updating their laws. Now, our Cyber Act can be, updated. Every 5 years, policies and laws are usually reviewed and, updated. So this might be a good opportunity to update it to include deliberately addressing technology facilitated gender-based violence. That could be one example. Our gender desk, for example, when I said it, even I was like, I know there's a lot that can be done.
Yes.
But to be honest, there's a lot that has happened. It's just that it's too little that we are seeing. So there is a need for constant training and retraining of the gender desk officers and empowering them to actually take action. It's not just having a gender desk to tick a checklist.
What are the psychological provisions that are being made? Because they are face to face with these victims. And so it takes a toll.
And speaking of taking a toll, the people who need a lot of training, you see the people who are the first responders to gender-based violence. The police, in some cases the army, because gender-based violence happens in the military. We have seen that with the lady who came out and called out her bosses and what have you.
On social media.
There is the police, there's the military. You also have the hospitals, and I'll talk about why all of these are important. After the hospitals, we have the lawyers. Okay, so let me start from the police. Let me start from the hospital, because first point of care is go and get tested. We don't have rape testing centers. We have a few of them. Let me not say we don't have. It's not an adequate number for the population that we have.
It's not accessible.
So can we have as many more? I was thinking that, if you're rich, you can go to a private hospital and have a rape kit administered to you, and the doctor can actually write a proper report. But how many Nigerians are rich? Yes. For a long time, we were the poverty capital of the world, and our PhCs, thankfully, the current coordinating minister of health and social welfare is doing a lot in trying to revamp our PhCs, but they are not there yet, and the PhCs may not even be able to address rape. That's one. So we need to make sure that even to the PhC level, that's PhD meaning primary healthcare center, even to that level, people can access a rape kit, because most people's only access to healthcare is at the primary healthcare center. So we need to make sure that they have access to rape kits. That's at the hospital level. We need to have doctors also who are trained, who understand that, look, my bias aside, because doctors are not different from their biases.
Yes, they're human beings.
They're human beings. So a doctor might be excellent, but think that rape is a woman's fault.
Yes.
So if that
is digital, there's a
exactly
digital
or digital abuse.
She might be online.
Yes, and she went to his house. So so away from your biases, what can I do to make sure that the report is properly done? Then you go to the police. In fact, when you take a digital case of gender-based violence to the police, there is almost nothing they can do. The only time we have seen a digital case that actually went far is with the abuse of power, not in the protection of a survivor or a victim. So we need to have the police understand that these things can happen, especially, for example, the things around sexual, explicit photos, deepfakes and what have you, or even extortion of money. If you go to the police to talk about extortion of money, you have to pay them to get anything to prove. So there's some things that need to be addressed even on the police level. So outside the police, we also need, I mentioned the police, I mentioned the hospital, I mentioned I can't remember.
The military,
yes, the military. So the military has very stringent rules, and many cases are tried within military systems, whether it's in the court or what have you. So the military also needs to understand that these, as much as they are soldiers, and there's the uniformity of all, I mean, that there are still cases of abuse that needs to be addressed, especially again in the military, especially if it's something as they might consider it a silly thing, because it's in the military we're thinking of saving the world and saving lives and what have you, and
you're worried about
somebody that so there needs to be that that push in the military to also address that, so that people will not have to use the same internet to go and report to the military for instances of abuse, right? So there needs to be reporting options, and we need to improve not just the testing, because testing is just one part of the problem. If we test and we analyze and we're able to say, somebody was raped, who is the person that raped the person? It's because we do not have a database of who we are as Nigerians. If we have a database of all of us, if somebody, one thing will lead to another. I know it feels like Hollywood has made us think that DNA testing is this fantastic. It is fantastic, but it can be done, right? So if you have a database that allows you to track human beings and what have you, next thing you know, you are able to put an abuser that started from online, maybe somebody that was stalking you. It's like the story I told. Somebody who sent me a Facebook message, and next thing you know, you are telling me, this dress you wore was really good on you. We can now trace that person using the IP. But do we have that? Maybe we do have it for our secret services. But it's not.
It should be accessible to the common man.
And then lawyers, which now brings me to another thing. We need to have affordable everything that I've mentioned. The rape kits are not cheap. Getting the police is not cheap. Having your military to do anything in the military, it's not cheap. Now, getting lawyers, if you manage to get the rape kit, you reported, you went to the hospital, you did everything. So I think all of this work, getting lawyers,
not just lawyers, but good lawyers.
Yes,
that are able to
help you and actually move forward. And even if you get good lawyers, our courts are so backed up.
The courts don't even treat sexual violence or gender-based violence with the severity that
it should get. Talk more of technology facilitated. It's some people might just think it's the internet. It's not that serious, but it's serious enough for people to take.
Judges even understand what goes on in the digital space.
So that's where the judiciary can do trainings for their for judges. There are things that we never know. That's the truth. There are things that, because I work in the sector, I know it, right? That the common person might not know. So that's why when people say, we need to cut out trainings, I say no. Trainings expose people to new ideas, and it's good that we have that.
And it's not one-off training.
And it's not
one-off and go on.
Yes, we should have more trainings, more conversations, more capacity building sessions that allow at every level. Because, for example, reporting digital violence is at multiple levels. You need the hospital, you need the police, you need lawyers, you need the court systems, you need after, if it now works and maybe someone is convicted, you need the prison systems. So there are multiple levels that people need to understand where they fit in the grand scheme of things. Right now, national non-profits like 𝗀𝗃 that I mentioned, they're doing well, right? But people say that non-profits proliferate when the government or the system is not working. If the system is working, we will not need this many non-profits. We cannot run Nigeria on non-profits running. We need it to come from the government.
So it's one thing to provide these spaces for girls, for women to be able to talk or to report, or maybe report women and girls, but what are the obstacles that there are obstacles that prevent people from utilizing these opportunities?
So many. So the first one is fear. Now I'll come back to my story. When that guy told me that he had seen me in that dress, I knew he had seen me in that dress, I didn't go out for this. I was afraid that if I go out, this guy would grab me, especially because I didn't know what he was like. So I felt I could be grabbed. And that's another thing. When people are abused online, you don't know. It's because the anonymity of the internet is so bad that you can be walking with somebody that you fought online and you will not know. There's a girl in South Africa, very funny video. She was making a video in one of their malls, and then she double back. She took a double back and she looked at one girl and she was like, "Hey you."
It's you.
And the girl was like, "Do I know you?" She said, "You said that you were going to beat me. Look at me here." And he was like, "Oh no, I didn't say nothing." And she was like, "No, you said." It was a funny video to watch, but it just shows that anonymity of the internet is so big. You can be fighting somebody. Somebody can actually threaten your life, can tell you, "I'm coming to your house to kill you," and you do not know who that person is, right? So there is that fear. There's also retaliation, and another thing that is re-traumatization. I mentioned, for example, a girl whose sex tape was put out there, right? What happens is, for every time it is shared, she is re-traumatized. Every time it goes viral again, she is re-traumatized. Every time somebody goes on Pornhub or whatever pornography sites are there to watch that video, she is re-traumatized by that. The fact that video can never get offline means that she will always be traumatized. And there's a re-traumatization that happens in person when a woman or a girl or somebody who has been abused online goes to the police and they say, "What were you doing on these sites? Why were you talking to the person in the first place? What made you? Is it because things went bad now? That's why you decided to come to us?" So there's a re-traumatization that happens. So these are some of the reasons, and especially because, to be honest, in Nigeria, justice, in the past, people used to say justice delayed is not justice denied, but in Nigeria, justice delayed is justice denied. Because imagine reporting somebody who has sexually abused you because you met them online and you went to their house and then they raped you, and then it stays in court for 20 years. Can you say, even if they convict the person, can you say it was justice?
No.
It really is not justice. So the fact that there is no trust in our legal system, it means that a lot of people don't even report. And so when bad things happen to them online, they don't even report, because what will the police do?
Nothing.
What will the courts do? And all of that. So there is no trust, and that also creates a huge gap in the reason why people do not report it.
I think we're sort of winding down, and I think I have one very important question that I feel that goes in line with the work that you do. So in storytelling, as a form of social, driving social change and advocacy, do you think, or to what extent does the storytelling that Shades of Us does, to what extent or how effective is it, or do you think it is in sort of driving change around eliminating violence against women and girls, especially in line with this year's theme of ending digital violence?
Okay, so we have a film called Report It, and before we did that film, we sort of put out feelers to the women in our community and asked them to tell us what were the reasons why you did not report. If you were abused, tell us what was the abuse, then what was the reason you didn't report it. And we made a film based on that, on the many reasons why men and women do not report their sexual and gender-based violence, specifically rape. And so when we did the film, ideally, because we have a mobile cinema campaign, our idea was we would go from community to community to, show people the film and talk about it, which is the model that we run. But we realized that, look, YouTube is a good channel. Lots of people get their content from YouTube. And so we put it on YouTube. And we got people watching the film. And from watching the film, some people said, oh, I didn't know that this was rape. Oh, this has changed my perspective about rape. Of course, you have the people like, I beg you, this, and what have you. But it allowed a healthy dialogue that made us realize that, look, we can reach people in the place where they are. Most people are on their phones. They're looking right at their phone, and they could watch that film. The report it is about 35 minutes or thereabout, and they watch that movie, and lots of people reach out to us and say, oh, I think, Ramat, how do we report that? You need to do another film, because in this film we didn't put the reporting mechanism.
Yes. So
they told us, Ramatu, you need to do another film on the reporting mechanism, and that's something we will do hopefully in the next 2 years. A film that shows the process, from abuse to the hospital, to documenting the abuse, to the police, then to the courts, to the prison systems, and all of that. One thing that storytelling can do is change our perspective. Every time we host our mobile cinema and we show a film and we have these conversations, there is always that person in the room who says, I didn't see it this way. And that's why we at my organization, 𝗨𝗶𝗴𝗶, believe that with stories, people, it's not just the story for story's sake. It's that when we have these stories, we are fostering dialogue and we're allowing people to introspect. If I sit down and I think, oh, this is not right, or this thing can be done differently, maybe I can act differently, and then we'll have a better world. Many people hate feminists for one reason or the other, but in the last 10 years, the switch in what is happening online,
yes,
and what was happening just 10 years ago. I joined the internet for the first time in 2005. Yes, 2005. So 20 years. When I first joined, you could tell a woman, oh, she's a whore, she slut shame her, do anything, and people will pile on the woman.
Yes.
Down the line, I saw a post recently when someone called the woman. He said, don't mind her now, no sure she said that way. And somebody said, you are too mature to be doing this. And then the next comment was, there's no reason why you're slut shaming her. Third comment is, women should enjoy sex as much as they can. I was like, 20 years ago, this would never have happened.
Yes.
There's somebody, for the life of me, I can't remember her name. I like to mention her name because 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, yes, that's her name. She received so much backlash when she came out and talked about her sexual abuse by a prominent religious leader. And when she came out in that, I think it was 2007 or 2008 that she came out, she received all kinds. They insulted, dragged her family, did everything online. It was the worst. In fact, for years she left social media, and it was said that she had depression. She was clinically depressed. It was bad. But do you know that because of the way that the conversations, the stories have been told over time, if 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 had said that same story today, she would receive more support, because people now know, oh, yes, this can be abused, this can be wrong, this can be that. Another way I have used stories is another film called 𝗨𝗶𝗿𝗏𝗏𝗏. And it was trying to teach people that there is, in between the rape, which is the explicit thing, and the black and white, there's a whole area that people don't even understand. That's why we called it that whole area of grey. And we thought, do you know that someone watched it when we premiered the film, and the person said, I owe people so much. And I said, oh really? And he said, I never knew that consent could be withdrawn. And that was a mind shift for me, because you could tell the person was feeling really bad. It was the realization that yes, I have raped somebody, but it's not the grey area of tying her down and forcing her. But in between this extreme cases of, 𝗨𝗶𝗿𝗶𝗀 person and rape, there was a point where I actually abused a person, and I need to apologize for that. And so imagine if we have more of these storytellers, and I'm really thankful that we have so many storytellers putting out information like that. I was happy to see 𝗵𝗿𝗍 released a similar titles with us. It's called The Grey Knight, and it addressed the same thing. And I said, we need more people who are filmmakers, who are storytellers, podcasters, and what have you, who are using stories, because we connect to stories.
Yes, especially now with the internet, it's important to put out stories that address that specific type of abuse.
Yes.
Not just the physical aspect, but for this one that happens. Because I don't even know it's ongoing.
Do you know how many women came into my timeline and told me, thank you for this film, and I didn't know my first or my debut sexual experience was rape until I watched this film. And for me, we do not have 1 million followers looking at us, but I always say, if we have that one person whose perspective is changed, we can help. And not just for the victims or survivors, but also for abusers. Did you see what adolescents did? Adolescents created a conversation, so much so that the UK government started putting things in place to improve how men perceive boys, perceive girls, so that instances of gender-based violence at that teenage age is addressed. So stories are powerful. We connect to stories, and they can change our perspective. So if we build stories that are specific around gender-based violence, we can eliminate this. It will be a long fight. It's a fight that I've been doing now for nearly 30 years, but it's a fight we can see the progress of if we actually put in our time and effort to.
Thank you so very much for joining us today, Ramatu. And I cannot wait to see what more you do with storytelling, especially in regards to telling stories about online abuse.
We have a couple of films in the works, and yes,
I can't wait for that to come out.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Next year, we will continue to unite to end digital violence against all women and girls. We will continue to do this by driving conversation and spotlighting individuals who continue to drive these meaningful changes in their areas of expertise, be it through storytelling, through policy changes, and through advocacy. And we'll continue to drive change to build the society we want to live in.